Ready to create stunning AI art? In the next hour, you're going to learn the essentials of Midjourney, from setting up your account to mastering basic prompts and parameters. Want to dive even deeper and unlock advanced tools, projects, and creative workflows? You can find our full Midjourney course in the description below. Let's get started. So let's start at the very beginning by answering the question, what is Midjourney and what can it even do? So Midjourney is an AI art generator, which means that it's a tool that takes your text description and turns them into images. You can think of it as your creative partner that helps you visualize your ideas instantly. Instead of sketching your ideas for hours, maybe you're thinking of merging a jellyfish into space with an astronaut. Instead of trying to figure out how to sketch it, you can use a tool like Midjourney to get that idea and turn it into a reality. So all you do is you type a sentence, and then in under a minute or so, it gives you an artwork that you can look at and then further modify. And as you can see already on the screen, the artworks are pretty good and they're all generated with AI. So already you can see what sort of capabilities Midjourney has, but let's dive deeper into what it can actually do for you. So first of all, it can create concept art for movies, games, design projects, and many more. So if you're someone who has to visualize a lot of things in different fields, you can use a tool like this to make your workflow a lot easier. It can also generate product mock-ups, illustrations, posters, animations, and other things. You can see on the top left we have a lipstick swatch, and that's great if you want to showcase a certain brand onto a model in a really quick way. And then it can help you explore different aesthetic styles. So let's say you have to come up with the animation style for a short film, but you're not sure if you want to do it in 3D, 2D, sketch art, or some other art style. So you put your prompt in Midjourney and you ask it to give you those different styles, and then from there you can decide which one works best with the aesthetic you're going for. And then lastly, it can speed up your brainstorming sessions. Let's say if you're trying to design a logo but you don't know what to put as the mascot, you can ask Midjourney to compact a bunch of elements and give you inspirations for your logo. Let's say you want to combine a cat and an octopus. Trying to figure out how to best combine them is going to be hard, so just let AI do the work for you. And then since it's all done by AI, you can do different variations from that one sketch that you like, and that could be 10 different variations, 20. Just by changing up the prompt a little bit, you can get a whole different style, and it's just a great tool to explore and sometimes just have fun with it. Now, one of the most powerful aspects of Midjourney is the ability for it to mix and match your ideas. So that means that rather than combining concepts that go really well together, for example, makeup and fashion, you can combine things that have no relation to one another. Like over here, we're seeing this sandwich with salmon and then construction. To be able to come up with an idea on where the people are going, what does the sandwich even look like, what should be on top, that's going to take a while, but we can see how this has been executed so great. Another example is if you wanted to take ancient Roman architecture but have it made of neon glass. So that's a really bizarre concept, but you can use Midjourney to bring it to life. So these unique mashups are often where all the magic within Midjourney happens. So now that we know what Midjourney is, of course, I will dive deeper into how you get to have images and videos like this. But I want you guys to start thinking of some things that are impossible to come up with. So something really unusual and two unusual things, and then combine them into one. Now we know what Midjourney is and what you can do with it, and in the further lessons, further chapters, I'm going to go over exactly how you can prompt and get amazing works like these. I will walk you through all the steps, and we also have projects within this course, so you get to apply your knowledge into actually building different generations with Midjourney. But now I got a little mini exercise for you guys. I want you to think of impossible or unusual concepts, jot them down, and then in the further lessons when we're experimenting with generating things in Midjourney, you can try those out yourself. I'll give you a couple of examples. We can do maybe a jellyfish floating through a desert, maybe a castle made of ice cream with sprinkles raining down. And these are just some really cool ideas that you can make within seconds using this tool. Now let's move on to better understanding how AI creates artworks. There's a lot to it, and it's a lot more complicated than most people think, because on our end we just type in something and we get a result, but a lot goes on in the background that we're not aware of. But it's important for us to know a little bit about how it all works. So now that we know what Midjourney does, let's peek under the hood a little bit. How does AI art actually work? AI, as we know, is artificial intelligence. There are huge data centers out there that process all of our prompts. But when it comes to artwork, there is a lot of other things that we need to know, because it's not like ChatGPT where you ask a question and it gives you an answer. It's actually visualizing all the things that you're typing in. So the core technology for AI artworks, or any of the tools that create art using AI, the core technology there is called a diffusion model. So that's as if you had a TV screen full of static, random, colorful dots. The AI starts with noise just like that, and then step by step, it denoises the image, shaping it closer to match your prompt. So for example, if your prompt says a cat wearing sunglasses, the model gradually organizes the noise until, after a series of seconds, an image of a cat in a sunglasses shows up. So you can kind of think of it as like you're trying to take a picture with your camera. It's blurry, it's out of focus. Slowly it comes into focus. So that's just the whole idea of a diffusion model. And here's the cool part about it. It doesn't just pull from a single image in a database. Instead, it's been trained on billions and billions of images and their descriptions. So let's say we have an image of a cat. It's not just an image. There's a description of the way the cat looks, the position the cat has, the background, the color of the cat, texture details and all that stuff. So the AI has so far learned patterns, like, what the cat does and all. And in addition to the subject, it also takes account for the lighting, the shadows, the details, and things for the overall image. So when you type in a prompt or a text into the box, I'll show you that later, it doesn't just retrieve an image from a database. It generates one that's completely new based on its knowledge of the patterns from that database. So think of prompts as instructions. The more details and instructions we give Midjourney, the better the result is going to be. For example, if I type in a cat, I'm just gonna get a very generic cat. I don't have any control over its colors, its position, and all that stuff. But if I add more details to that, for example, a brown cat flying over snowy mountains at sunrise with dramatic vintage lighting. So I'm actually guiding the AI with these details, mood, and style. And therefore, because I asked for, the cinematic lighting, the brown cat, and the flying part, it has to obey and give me that result. So let's just do a quick demonstration. Right away on the top, we can see the bar saying, "What will you imagine?" Just for exercise sake, let's start typing in the examples that I mentioned, and then you can see the difference. So let's just go over here and type in cat. So I just typed in cat, and in create, you should see like a 0 out of 2 or 0 out of 1. And when I go over there, these are my cats. So you can see the diffusion model happening. It started very blurry and it slowly goes into that detailed cat. We can also see the completion. So here is one word, just cat. You can see that they all look very different. But what if I describe the cat better and provide more details? Let's put in a brown cat. I won't mention the flying part. Let's keep it very simple. A brown cat looking to the side with golden eyes and sharp whiskers, or maybe detailed fur, dramatic lighting, harsh shadows, and golden light. So it's still a cat, but now I'm describing more about the way it looks like. You can see how it started from a black box, and our cat is slowly coming into focus. And that's just a live demonstration of that diffusion model. Got a little bit left, and just compare the prompts I gave here, very different. When I go into one, we can see a brown cat, looking to the side, golden eyes, detailed fur, harsh lighting, just dramatic lighting, harsh shadows, and golden light. So it obeyed what I asked it to do. So now think about how specific do you usually get when you are describing something creative, when you're trying to talk about your art style to someone. How do you end up describing it? So throughout this course, we're going to practice a lot on how to describe styles and moods in better ways, because that's the whole point of a detailed prompt. Now let's move on to beginning and creating our account so that we can start building with Midjourney. To get started with Midjourney, just head over to midjourney.com/home. You should see this page where you get to either sign up, log in, or explore Midjourney before you make an account. So if you go over here, it's going to take you to that same homepage, but you can see we're not signed in at the moment. This lets you understand what kind of artworks you get to create with Midjourney and see if this is the right fit for you before actually committing with an account. So you get to explore, but we're not able to create. Going back, we can sign up with either Google or Discord. Now, Midjourney started as a bot within Discord, and now they have their own platform. The cool thing is that they still have that Discord chat feature within their website, and I'll show you that in further lessons. But depending on whichever account you're comfortable with, just click on either, and you're going to get redirected to the homepage. You can also log in using the same options. Once you've logged in, you will be brought to the same explore page, except now you get to see my account, and I'm also able to create with Midjourney. When you go down here next to my account, there's 3 little dots. The first is account settings, where it will tell you your Midjourney ID and personal information, which you can either look at or edit. There's also manage subscription, manage your uploads, which are the things you upload from your local device. You can go to Discord, to that same bot that I mentioned, and there's also a Midjourney magazine. And then of course we can log out. So let's go to the different subscriptions. So I'm just scrolling down. If you have an account as subscription already, that's going to be a little bit above. So I scrolled down, since that will include your personal information. There are 4 plans that you get with Midjourney, starting with the basic plan and then the mega plan. So the difference here is the amount of generations you get to make, and some of the tools are not available for the basic plan. Previously, Midjourney allowed you to edit or just create for free. I think around 200 credits were given to you, and then you get to upgrade into one of these. But now they don't have that anymore, and you need a basic plan minimum to be able to create within this platform. So you can see the different generations. We get 200 images a month. These are all unlimited. We have video, but in SD. And then it goes to HD over here. We have general commercial terms. These are the things we talked about in chapter 1 in the ethics lesson. You can read them on a separate page. You can just do a Google search. There's optional credit top-ups. Same thing for all the other plans. 3 concurrent fast image jobs. We have that, and then it gets higher with the last 2 plans. Basically, it means 3 things using their fastest model at the same time. And with video, there's only 1 here, but then it goes up to 12. There is use editor or just use editor on uploaded images. So if you upload a selfie of yourself and you want to add in like a space machine in the background, you get to do that with the basic plan. But here we get a few additions. We get relaxed image generations. I will talk about their differences later. We have the same options as this. We have stealth mode. This is another feature that I'll talk about. And in the mega plan, which is their biggest plan, you are able to create faster generations and more concurrent jobs. They have a monthly billing plan, which saves you, yearly billing plan, which saves you 20%. These are the prices, or you can just do monthly to experiment before moving on. Now, when choosing a plan, you have to think about your goals. If you're just experimenting or learning this platform, then the basic plan might be enough. But if you want to create the content to sell or distribute on a more professional scale, you're going to probably need the standard or the pro plan, because those give you the extra generation credits. So with everything you create within Midjourney, it's going to take up a certain number of credits. And if you want to do a lot of that, then you're going to need enough credits. For this course, I'm using the pro plan because it includes the stealth mode and more generations for me to show you. You can either go with a pro plan, but the standard plan should be fine as well. There's also some frequently asked questions which describe the things that we just saw. And here's some answers regarding copyright. So you can just click on this to learn about the full details. You can also cancel your subscription plans if you change your mind. It does tell you when the next cycle is, so just make sure to mark that in your calendar. You can also delete your account completely, and then we have options where you get to upgrade or downgrade from your plan. If you want to use Midjourney on Discord, you just make your Discord account and open the bot within that platform. This is the chat that I was telling you about, so you're going to find the same structure within Discord. We also have the voice chat here. Now let's move on to our next lesson where we explore the interface a little bit. So what are all these buttons for? How do you navigate through this dashboard? And what's the best practice for doing that? Let us get comfortable with the interface of Midjourney and their dashboard. So when you first join the server, it may feel like a lot. There's all these moving images and there's all these tabs on the side, but you only really need to focus on a few key areas. And that is the bar up here where you get to put in your prompt and get those generations. The create bar where you get to look at the variations made for you. The edit bar where you get to edit things further. Organize, which keeps all of your work. And the explore for some brainstorming, which is what we are in right now. So starting from here, we're able to add images if we want a reference. For example, we have a character that we want in outer space. We can upload an image of that character and then have Midjourney blend that character into an outer space image. So when you click on that, we have starting frame, image prompt, style references, and omni references. The difference here is that each one focuses on a certain aspect of the image you upload. For example, the image prompt looks at the element of the image. How many characters are in there? Is there any clouds? Is there any mountains? There's also the style, which looks at the style. Is it black and white, sketched, 3D, 2D? There's also omni reference, which is the character's form, what they look like, what are the colors, their features, and etc. And then starting frame is when you get to animate an image. And that's what we're on right now. All these moving things are basically images animated by Midjourney. So if you made something and you want to animate it, you just upload that image up here and it will generate it for you. Here you get to click and drag your work. This is where you type in your prompt. And then we have all these parameters which define how strongly Midjourney looks at your prompt. I will get into this in another lesson because this is the second most important part of Midjourney. The first is your prompt. We have a search bar over here if you're doing any sort of brainstorming and you want to look at other works. We have personalize, which lets you filter through all of these and only keep the things that appeal to you the most. For example, you are a product designer and you would only like to see products and not so much these random things. Midjourney lets you do that. We can filter through things. There is For You, which takes us to this personalization, which I'll get into later. There is random, so random artworks. There is hot artworks, top day, top week, even top month. We can also go through our liked images. So when you see an image you like, you can actually heart it and it will go in your like page. You can also unlike it to remove it. We can look at the prompt of an image. So let's say this is a really good thing and we want to see how they made it. Simply click on it once and we can see that it's really short. It tells us who the person's name is, when they made it, and then the prompt, which we can use it if we click on it once, which model they use, the version. So version 7 is their latest version. We can search similar things with that search icon, and then we're able to copy either the prompt, job ID, image, the URL to the image, and then download it. You can also report things on Midjourney if there's some sort of problem. We can look at the prompt, which when I click it, it goes straight into our box. I can have it inputted as a style or inputted as an image. So this is how we get to use what we see into our own search bar. Let's delete that. You can also clear things using that trash icon. In the Explore tab, we're also able to switch between images and videos. We can randomize the selection. If you're brainstorming or you just want to come up with a concept, this will be helpful for you. The next thing is the Create tab. So whenever you type in a prompt, you should come here to see what the results are. It shows you the prompt on the right. Then you have the variations on the left. We have some options to give us another set of subtle variations, strong variations, or even animate. Up here we have the same bar. We have draft mode. We have the conversational mode where you get to talk to Midjourney regarding maybe the thing that you're looking for. We can start the voice mode, so I could voice prompt Midjourney to create me stuff. There is the search bar, and then there's folders. So I could make a new folder, put all my cats in one. And then edit is regarding an image that you made that you want to further modify. So this is a very detailed dashboard within Midjourney. There's all these tools that you get to use, and basically you get to edit a small part of the image, half of it. You can restore some of the generations, combine, merge, resize, retexture even. And it's a really cool interface that we're going to take a look at later. We have personalize, which lets you, as we said, lets you only see the things that you want to see. Right now it's locked, but you can unlock it by creating a global profile. So we'll take a look at that later too. I do suggest turning this on if you want to brainstorm a lot. That way you will only see things related to that concept you're trying to make. We also have mood boards, which are related to the previous panel. Let's say you were brainstorming and you found a bunch of cool product images. You can combine them all in a mood board to help you better organize those appealing images. Organize is where all of your works go in, unless you delete them. Anything you generate, whether you like it or not, is going to end up here. It's separated with dates. So we have today, a while ago. You can select them all to download. You can like them, unlike, hide, publish them to the community, unpublish, or even add to a folder to make things a little easier. You can click away. If you go on any of them, it's going to show you the same tools we looked at, the prompt, the version, and then you have some creation actions, which allows you to create more variations, upscale it into a larger version, rerun the same prompt, enhance it for full quality, and then use the editor tab that we looked at. You can also animate the image with low or high motion or loop it. which means it's going to keep repeating. On the side, we can see saved searches. So if you search for something often, you can add a search here. So if I do a lot of products, I can put product over here. And then we can do minimal products, for example. Then you hit create. We can have different profiles. We can have some filters, only see the things that we liked, only the images, only the upscaled works, versions, and other details. There's view options for full or square, small, large, or medium. This right here is the chat feature. You can see people are already generating stuff and we get to see it with that diffusion model that we talked about. There's threads, so people are commenting on this person's work. You can do the same thing too, or just start writing stuff here. So I get to reply to this person, rerun their prompt, use their prompt, and do other stuff with it. You can see a lot of things are being created at the same time. There's also the voice chat. This is all of the images, and you can also look at your images. Here you get to filter through things that were completed only, things that show up immediately, or the ones that are in progress, or just set to auto. We have a task compartment, which basically is an option for you to help Midjourney to better their services. So you can rank their videos and earn fast hours. You can be a curator, rank their images, do a bunch of surveys, and then join their community. You can get some help over here. There's also a AI chatbot to assist you with anything, updates regarding their tools, and then you can switch between dark mode or light mode. And then down here, that's your account. You can return to the home page by clicking on the logo up here, and it's going to bring you back to this page. Once you understand the Midjourney interface, the anxiety feels a little less and you'll feel more comfortable using all of these tools. Now we're going to talk about prompting basics. So the text that we put in here, what should we put in? How do we make it more detailed? And what are some of the parameters that we need to understand in order to get better results? Prompting is the heart of Midjourney. You can think of it as a sort of new creative language that allows you as a person to communicate with Midjourney. And in order to communicate efficiently, we need to know the right words, the right style, the right grammar, and so on forth. And that's exactly what we're going to learn about in this lesson. I'm going to walk you through the anatomy of a good prompt. In the further chapters, you're going to see that at work where we actually create things with it. So with a good prompt, as we said, it's like a set of instructions where we're asking Midjourney to create us something. And it always starts with a subject. So let's take a look at some of these images. And just by looking at these pictures, we know exactly what the subject is. This is a wallet, a city, a deer, we have a butterfly, the sea, a logo even can be your subject, a helmet, spray bottle, and as you can see, that's where it all begins. So that's your outline that you have first, and then later on you build up on that. In the last lesson, we made a photo using one word, cat, and it did give us something like this, but just by looking at these two, you can just see the difference. We have so much more detail, so much more variation regarding the colors, the contrast, whereas with this, it's still good pieces of work, but it's just not what we are trying to get to. With Midjourney, we're trying to get really realistic images, and we want everything to be conveyed from our prompt. So taking a look at this prompt, a brown cat is our subject. Once we have our subject, we have to give details. So that's part 2. Details are the brown part, looking to the side, with golden eyes and detailed fur. So these are just some additional information about the subject. So when you're trying to write your prompt, try to answer the questions of what is that subject, how does it look like, what are the colors involved, what are the details involved, anything that can help Midjourney visualize your prompt. The third thing is style. So you have that subject and all of its detail, but how does it actually look like? Is it in black and white? Is it really covered in vibrant colors? Is it in vintage mode? Does it have a 3D style, 2D style? Is it a photorealistic portrait? That's where you put in information like this. And that is pretty much it, the anatomy. But I will have a document in the resource pack that has the format available to you, so you can look back to it whenever you want to. But to summarize, I'm going to use these brackets. It always starts with the subject, and then we add in details about subject. An additional thing, if it's like a subject that moves or talks, is just the action. So this doesn't really apply to landscapes, but if we have a cat, you can see I said that it's looking to the side. So that's where that section goes in. Next we have style. And then lastly is the parameters. So these are technical add-ons like the size of the image, the resolution, the amount of variations, the chaos amount, and the stuff that's over here, which I'll walk you through later on. I will also add in parameters here. And that's basically the anatomy that you should always keep in mind. Always start with the subject, give more details about that subject, mention what the subject is doing. If you're doing something that doesn't involve a human or an animal, you don't need to really put in an action. Mention the style and then the parameters. So I will do a dog example. Let's type in dog, hit enter, and it's going to start building our dog. And then this is a weak prompt. In Midjourney terms, whenever it's 1 or 2 words, that's considered weak, and it usually doesn't spend that much time building your images. Now let's take this same dog and turn it into a stronger prompt. A fluffy white dog sitting in a sunlit window, comma, soft shadows, photorealistic, and some technical terms like 85 milliliter lens and cozy atmosphere. So there's our subject, details about the subject, the action, style, and the technical terms. So this right here is considered a strong prompt. Now, of course, I'm going to show you a few of the other examples where it gets really crazy. It's a full paragraph of a prompt, and just think that you need at least a sentence in order to get a good result. So here's our white dog. We can even see consistency among our variations, which we did not get with one word. Because when you give it one word, Midjourney assumes that you don't exactly know what you want. So it's going to give you different styles, different dogs in this case, so that you can make your decision. But here with a detailed prompt, I'm getting pretty much the same dog, maybe different breed, but with similar features. And then I can choose. Now if we go to explore and look at some of these, let's go to like the top of the day. You can see how this person has basically a paragraph for their prompt. We have the subject, details, action, style, and technical terms. Now, when you look at other people's work, the technical terms are not in the prompt, but down here. So AR 59 by 72, raw style, V7, and then this profile. So that's why we have these tags at the bottom. Now let's do a little exercise. I want you guys to create a prompt, write down a prompt for a landscape scene, whichever landscape you want. It could be a sunset, the beach, mountains, whatever you want. but see how you can apply this basic anatomy that we talked about and compare it with a very simple word regarding that landscape. We can't talk about AI art and Midjourney without actually addressing the ethical sides of using tools like this. So first of all, we have to understand copyright. Midjourney's images are new creations and they come about when you put in your detailed prompts, but they're actually trained on data from billions of images on the internet. So that means other people's artwork, their images, something they took with an actual camera, and maybe their sketches even. So what that means is that the AI is actually learning from existing artists and is not, taking a pen itself and drawing things for you. So you should never claim an AI-generated piece of art as entirely your own manual creation. So what are you supposed to do when you want to share your AI artwork on the internet? Nowadays, everyone and every platform is aware that you can create really realistic works like this on the internet, and whether you're on TikTok, Instagram, Behance, Adobe Stock, there is an option for you to check that tells that platform that you made this video or image with AI. So what you really have to do is be transparent. If you want to sell or share your images, you have to let people know that AI was either partly of the process or entirely part of the process. Next is to avoid directly copying the living artist names. For example, make this cat in the style of Studio Ghibli, because that can raise legal and ethical concerns. You are probably familiar with the scandal that OpenAI went through with Studio Ghibli. So avoid doing that with living artist names. You can do maybe Picasso or Da Vinci or anything that isn't living right now. And again, it's going to be very clear that this was generated with AI and you made it in the style of that artist. Next, you want to understand Midjourney's licensing. So if you're on the free plan, you're not actually allowed to use your images commercially, which means to sell and distribute. But if you are on a paid plan, you can use the images commercially. But I do recommend that whichever plan you choose, be sure to read the terms on image distribution so that you don't run into any sort of legal or other issues. Now, if you just want to use Midjourney for fun and you don't actually plan on posting it anywhere, you don't really need to worry about the stuff that I mentioned because no one's going to really see your work. When you make an image on this platform, it does go to the community, but anything in the Midjourney community is made by AI and everyone knows that. Apart from those legal concerns, there are also some social considerations. Some people do worry that AI will replace human artists, while others see it as a tool to speed up workflows. And if you think about it, it's kind of both. So the best approach is to treat Midjourney as your collaborator and not a replacement for actual artists or a reason for you to claim another person's work as your own. Now you can think about your own use cases. Are you going to use Midjourney for fun, for business? Do you want to sell the work, which you can, and we'll talk about it later? Or do you just want to use it for some brainstorming? Now when I say you can sell AI artworks, we are going to be doing it. It's a common practice, but we're going to be doing it with all of the considerations that I mentioned in this lesson. So it's important for you guys to understand all the points that I made so that when we reach that chapter, you can apply them when you post these works for sale. By the end of this course, you'll know how to use Midjourney not just efficiently, but ethically. Now let's move on to our first chapter where we learn about the basics of prompting, which is the text we put into the box that we saw, the text like cat. We're going to see what actually makes a good prompt, what are the parameters, and how we can master that skill so that in the next lessons we just use it smoothly and get exactly what we're looking for. Once you have made a few images in Midjourney, you'll notice quickly that your prompt list can get messy. You'll try variations, style tweaks, and suddenly you have dozens of generations without knowing what worked best. So right here in the Create, we can see on the side the prompts that we used. but it's hard to track for later which ones were the best ones and which one gave us bad results. So here are some tips on how to organize your prompts and the different versions so that you can always refer back when you want to, let's say, make a dolphin in this very style. So just like anything else, you need a system to stay productive. The first thing you should do is save your prompts in a document or a spreadsheet so that every time you either discover a different keyword to get you a good result, you can just jot it down in that document or spreadsheet. It also helps to put down some notes regarding why that was a good prompt. As I mentioned in the previous lessons, we do have a document for you that has some good prompts for you to try and also the basic structure of a prompt. You can either duplicate that and then edit it or just create one from scratch. The second practice you need to have is to name your outputs. So when you download something, you want to make sure that instead of it being just this, it's maybe dog version 1 or dog with golden lighting version 2, something that will let you know how your prompting experiments progressed. And the last thing you want to do is to go to organize and create different folders. So if you're trying to get a specific design that includes, let's say, outer space and a desert, that's a folder that you need to create where you put in all your different images. So if I'm really keen on getting the perfect cat, I should have a folder that's called that. You can make one over here. Just name it cat. And then you could just put in cat. So you drag the images here, and that way everything is organized. So of course you're thinking, why should you even do this thing? As you can see, this is just all my creations over the years. If I wanted to recall how I got the most realistic human feature, I have to scroll all the way down through my Organize tab to find the one that I liked, and then I have to go through each one, see which one I favorited, and then use the prompts that are here. But that does take time and it's just not the best practice. So that's why we want to make sure we have the folder structure, and the most important one is the document where you get to try different styles and also try styles that you see in the Explore tab. So for example, here we can see that this person used this term for a product shot. We can try that with our product and then take a look at the style. So the style is the thing that you really need to take notes on. This is giving a very dark professional mood to it, and using the words that this person used, we can see that they have used high key lighting, dark red gradient background, highly detailed composition. So you could just jot those down and then try it on your space photo generation. Now, if you were experimenting with Midjourney so far, making little fun images like we did here with the cat, I want you guys to just open your Midjourney history, pick one image you liked, and copy down the exact prompt. Then you can write a short note about what was good in that prompt and what could be better. And then later on, as we move forward, you can work on expressing that. Midjourney has hidden knobs and dials called parameters that lets you control how your prompt is being interpreted. We saw them over here when we went to settings. All these familiar sliders determine how strictly or how loosely Midjourney takes in your prompt. And then you can add the technical terms that we talked about, such as the frame of your image, the aesthetic, the size, even the model, and all the things that you see right over here. Adding these at the end of your prompt can dramatically change the results of the outputs. I'm going to walk you through some examples where we don't have any of these terms in there versus when we do have them. Now there are a bunch of sliders over here, but I'm going to walk you through all of them and then tell you which ones are the most useful. So first up we have image size, which is pretty self-explanatory. Here we have 1 to 1, which means the length and the height is equal, a square. If you grab the slider, you're changing that ratio, and on the left you can see a preview of what that looks like. So portrait is going to be your vertical shots, and then landscape is going to be your horizontal shots. If you wanted to reset, just hit this button. You can also type in a number here, or like we did, use the slider. Next is the model. So just like any other AI tools out there, they run on different models. The latest one is version 7, but there are older versions, as you can see. The reason why you may even consider using an older version is for very specific styles, such as if you want something to not look as realistic, you can go back to an older model so that it doesn't provide you something really detailed and crisp. If you're following a tutorial or are trying to get a specific style, pay attention to the version that they use in that tutorial so that you get the same result. Because each of these are good for a certain type of images, and you'll discover that when you play around with each of the versions. Now, draft mode allows you to just play around with your generations before actually publishing them anywhere. Standard is your usual generation within Midjourney. Now we also have mode, where if you go over here, it tells you that raw mode replaces the default aesthetics of the Midjourney versions. And also, if you are into photography or have worked with a camera before, raw versions are usually the bigger, more complex outputs where you have more details to work with, more pixels to work with in that case, and then you in this case would use it for really hyper-realistic footage. So if you're doing something like an anime like this one down here, you don't really need raw, but if you're doing something like this where you have all these crispy details, then you do want the help of raw. And because it's adding a lot of details for your images, it may take a little longer to produce that output for you. The next thing is the aesthetics box. This is regarding the style of your photo. First up, we have the stylization, which is by default set to 100, but this basically controls how strongly Midjourney applies its own aesthetic flair. So low stylization gives you a plain, literal result. So if you say black and white with golden hues, it's exactly going to give you that thing. But the higher you go, it gives you more artistic and dramatic results. So it's going to play around with that black and white golden hues, giving you different things each time you produce it. Now this is the stylization bar. I'm going to show you how you can kind of shortcut these into your prompt later on, because coming in here and using the sliders is going to be a little bit tedious. The second thing is weirdness. Now this one is regarding the unpredictable qualities that Midjourney can provide. So a higher value gives you wilder, more dramatic outputs, where the lower value gives you more consistent things. So for example, if I do a clown and I produce it with 0 weirdness, it's going to give me your standard plain clown. But if I increase this all the way, I'm going to get really crazy colors, crazy features, maybe scary at times. But this is a pretty fun slider to play around with. And you can see the shortcut is --weird. The next thing is the variety, which talks about how different each of your productions are. So whenever you put in a prompt and you hit enter, it gives you 4 different images. And if we increase the variety, those 4 images are going to look really different from one another. Versus when we have it at 0, they're going to have that subject consistent with every production. And then down here we have additional options. The first one is the speed, which is how fast Midjourney is going to produce your image and how slow it's going to do that. The slower it does, the more time Midjourney takes to, create that image for you. Versus if you rush it, it's going to just give you a quick result. So if you're going for a really hyper-realistic image with, let's say, a prompt that is a paragraph long, You do want to put in the time for a relaxed production versus a turbo, which will rush over everything. It will still give you what you asked for, but it just won't be as rich as it could be. The next thing is stealth. Now, when you produce in stealth mode, you're going to have your images hidden from the public. So the people in the community, like how we are in Explore, are not going to see your new productions unless you get off of this or you publish that image. By default, it's turned off, but you can turn it on depending on whether or not you're just playing around or if you're just experimenting. Resolution is regarding the quality. So we have SD, standard definition, which is 480 pixels versus high definition, which is 720 pixels. I'm on the Pro plan, so you can see that I have access to HD, but if you're on another plan, you may only be able to use SD. So just look at if this is grayed out for you or not. And I could just switch between the two. The last thing is video batch size. So when you generate videos, this is regarding how many videos you get from one prompt. Remember that videos take longer to create and they will take more credits. So if you are running short on credits, you don't want to create 4 videos from one prompt, and therefore you can just come over here, switch to 1 video, 2, or 4 if you have tons to work with. So these are the parameters and settings that are within these sliders, but there are a bunch of other ones that aren't really listed here. The first one is chaos, which you can also access by typing down --chaos or --c, and that makes your outputs really unpredictable. So the higher you put in the chaos value, it's going to be really crazy over there, and the lower it is, the more controlled the outputs are going to be. The next is seed, or you can do --seed. Now this is going to be the random starting point for your images. So every image you see here has its own seed, which is a few numbers. And if you want to continue that randomness but with the same style, you can copy the seed and put it in your prompt. Another thing is image weight. If you have a reference image and you want to just talk about how much of a weight and effect that input image has on your output image, you do --iw. We also have --q or quality, where 1 is your default quality and 2 is your highest quality. Now let's see how adding these parameters can actually change our prompt. I'm just going to type in a very simple prompt, say a fluffy cat floating above DC, glowing with purple neon colors. Let's do period dramatic lighting, shallow depth of field, comma, ultra defined. So here's my prompt without any of the parameters. Again, recognize the subject, what they're doing, the environment, description, and technical terms. Let's create landscape. So here are my cats. Very defined, fluffy for sure, purple light, ultra high definition, and basically everything we asked for is here. We also have that shallow depth of field, which is the fact that it's blurred in the background. So that's without any of the parameters, and right away you can see that my cats don't exactly look the same. We have like a fluffier one here, we have one with different colors. This guy is super fluffy. We got a different breed maybe, I'm not sure, but the point is that they don't look the same. The color purple, you can see that here it's the lightest shade, and then we get a really dark one here. The environment, we have like a stormy situation here, sunset. This one looks like the sun is still out there, and here it looks like the cat is underwater. Let's take a look and see how we can use the parameters to get a different result. First, I'm going to click on this to get the same prompt up here. And we're just going to put in the most useful parameters, such as chaos, stylize, seed. Now let's start putting in our other parameters, starting with the chaos, because already we had the aspect ratio set to 4:3. I'm just going to do --AR. Let's do 16:9 --chaos. I will do, let's say 100. Let's add some stylize in there. I will also add some weirdness. Okay, so these are all some random parameter numbers. You can see here what they run between. So we have 0 to 3000, 0 to 1000. This is variety, which is the chaos. So I did mine 100, which I think is a little too high. Let's do 80. And then aspect ratio was the image size, chaos, stylization, and weirdness. And let's see what we get. You can see when I use the 16:9, it had to expand, so it's like 2 rows instead of 1. So already this is pretty weird. Great details, definitely a cat, but it's not really making sense. And that's precisely how the weird works, the weird parameter. I'm gonna try this again and just remove weird. So let's put in the chaos, the 16:9 version 7. Stylize, let's take it down to 100 so it pays more attention to our prompt. Let's generate that. So this was before, we have all these parameters. Now I just cut it down to only these 3. And initially we had no parameters, it was just the image size. And you can see how different these generations are. It's still a cat floating over water, but you can see it's nowhere close to what we were getting before. The only difference here is that this is not weird and it doesn't have any sort of stylization, so it's not really depending that much on our prompt. Now let's do it again. Oh, we had variety set to 100 in the last one. Yeah. Stylize is, if I go over here, it was set to 100, so we're getting completely different styles. I'll just set this back to 0 and oops, meant to add the chaos as well. But let's just compare stylize 100 versus 0. And there we have it. So now we have at least a decent looking cat. Similar settings versus when this is with the stylize being set to 0. So it's being very literal about what it's giving out. But in the previous set, we had stylize set to the maximum. So we had completely different variations of a cat that's glowing over the sea. Let's use the same thing again, and I'm gonna just work with weirdness right now, which is the weird outcomes, 1500. But as you can see, each of these sliders have a completely different effect. In all of these, I did not change my prompt one bit. I'm only working with those parameters set at the end. And you can see how 1500 weirdness gives us some weird results. You can, do the same thing, remove the weirdness, and simply work with the stylization. So high stylization is going to give us artistic and less connected to the prompt. So these are the results with 1000 or the maximum amount of stylization, where Midjourney uses more creativity to generate your images. So we have a cat, but it looks like it's being electrocuted by these purple things. Here it has a more magical galaxy-like look. We have these jellyfish things around our cat, and this just looks like a dragon, I guess. And it also combined different colors with our purple, even though I only had purple neon in my prompt. Now let's try to look at seeds. I'm gonna grab the exact same prompt, make sure none of these are enabled. Let's do a square this time. And I'm just gonna do -- seed, a random number. So you can see seed is right over here. And the reason why we did a random number is because seeds are random by default, but the cool part comes after generating this first round. So here's my random seed. You can see it used a completely different style for my cat, even though we had the exact same prompt. I will do the same thing but without the seed, just to show you the difference. So stylized 0, version 7, the only difference is the seed. Now let's do a different prompt. We're going to put in a fluffy dragon maybe with pink, neon colors, lady pink and blue, and all that stuff, and just add in this particular seed. I will do another one without the seed. And you can just see the difference between the two when we used the seed and when we didn't. Now for a quick exercise, I want you guys to grab a prompt and keep it consistent, but simply change the parameters as we did in this lesson, and then find out the differences between each of the quantities. Congratulations on completing this free Midjourney tutorial. This was the first step into the world of AI art, and I hope you guys are excited about what else is possible. If you'd like to take this further, we have a full Midjourney mega course linked down in the description. That course will take you from beginner level to expert. On top of the basics, you're going to learn about advanced prompting, blending techniques, the ethics of AI, and then finally how to monetize your artwork. You will also apply your knowledge to real projects, and that way by the end of the course you already have some polished AI art to distribute. So if you're serious about continuing this AI art path, go ahead and check out that link, and I hope to see you guys in that course.